Okay. All right. I am now recording this too. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that reminders. I am so bad sometimes about remembering to record. All right. So, la la la. And let me just, is there a way to just like automatically let people in? I wonder. Okay. Yeah, because it looks like, well, it looks like people come in. All right. So, all right, back to, so the reason that I'm interested in Grasshopper is because I like, my work is based on the forms of ships and their traditional ways of being built, which is with these planks on the side. And these ships are built with hundreds of these planks. And I find that they're very beautiful forms. And what I like about them are that, you know, I like to take them and twist them around. This isn't working, this silly little, yeah, here we go. But that isn't what I wanted to show you. Let me go back to the gallery here. And yeah, so like you can see that there's all these like planks, and then I'm changing them around, I'm transforming them into wearable items for the body. So, but they all start as a Rhino file. So I'll go into, I'm gonna share to my other screen here. And so can you guys see my Rhino? Give me a thumbs up, somebody, because when I'm sharing my, okay, great, thanks. So what I usually do to start with is I will build an actual ship in Rhino. And you can see here, I've got like some cross sections, and this is, so I build an interior and an exterior, and this is actually based on an actual ship in Norway in the Oslo Viking Ship Museum, and it's from like the 800s, I think. But anyway, they're just beautiful forms to me, and they're even more beautiful, I think, when I can change them around and make them transform them into wearables. So I'm gonna share to the other screen. The way that I have been traditionally building these, all right, now we got it. Can we see these forms now? All right, I do apologize. So we've got like these sweeps and cross sections, and here I've got flattened side, a little more rounded here. We've got quite a bit going on as far as, you know, all these sweep twos that I would have to do and then join with the interiors, because I would have interior skins and exterior skins. And these big, you know, so this is what the final forms would look like. And then I would take them from there and transform them. But all the prep that went into the different styles of boats are part of what really took a whole lot of time. So I want to talk a little bit about, now let's move on to Grasshopper. I'm sorry for the, you know, little bit of a right turn there, but I wanted you to see how, to me, this was going to become a very labor-saving option once I had Grasshopper programmed. Now, I'm making an assumption here. Does everyone know what Grasshopper is? Grasshopper is actually a, I've got a signal here. Do I have, oh my goodness. All right. Okay. Grasshopper is like programming. What's going on is you have this way of taking the commands or similar commands to what is in Rhino. You're programming very explicitly what data they are getting and how they're using that data. And there are ways to there are then ways to manipulate the command while it's in process. And I'm going to quickly demonstrate, well, hopefully quickly, we'll see how it goes, how I started creating some of my ship forms, but starting with only 9 points here in Rhino. So I've got, just as an FYI, I can't see the chat while I have all of this up. I'm going to bring the Grasshopper over to the side, and I'm going to show you here what we have. So Grasshopper, apparently when they first started to work on Grasshopper, it was called, one of the working titles was Explicit History. Now, for those of us who have used record history, you know how powerful that can be. So what I started doing was I decided that I just wanted to be able to manipulate the shapes of the ships using these points. So these are parameters. I've taken the parameters and let me move that over here. That's good. Okay. The first parameter that I'm using is a point. So if you drag a point into, this is the canvas, the working area of Grasshopper, and I'm taking that point and I can set it to a piece of geometry in, or particularly a point in this case, in Rhino. So I'm going to delete this because I've already, what I'm going to do is walk you through a definition, which is what we call these in Grasshopper. You can see that there are a lot of components here, but right now I have them all hidden. So I'm going to show them one by one. All of these points, I'm going to make them visible. So when you click on something in Grasshopper, if it's visible, it will show as green. So you can see here that these first 3 points, and let's look in the right viewport so you can see. These first 3 points, and then these 3 middle points, and then these are 3 points in the back. What I've done with those is I'm now going to create 3 different curves. And I will take these guys and I will make them visible. So what I've got here, and let's go to the perspective so you can see, is I have these 3 arcs now. And remember, this is just like in Rhino, you can create an arc from 3 points, right? And I tend to use the arc command anyway a lot in Rhino. So this is you know, kind of the same. So I have this arc, I've put this point in the middle, and then this point on the end, and this is the arc that I got. So this is where we can see how powerful Grasshopper is. I'm going to take this, I'm going to just gumball it a little, and look, it automatically updates. I don't have to worry about, you know, breaking my history or anything like that. So that's really cool. Okay, I've got 3 arcs. What can I do with those? I'm going to take each of those arcs and I'm going to divide them. We're going to bring up points that are in each of those. I'm going to hide the points at this point, by the way. The Grasshopper screen can get really cluttered, so I do apologize if I'm going back and forth and hiding and showing things a lot. So here we're dividing this curve. And when we divide that curve, here's where we put in the curve that we're going to divide. And this is one of the great things about Grasshopper as well, especially for those of us who are just beginning to learn it. You can just hover over the mouse and see what you have, what you need to put in and what your outputs are. So, oh, by the way, if anybody has any questions, please just unmute yourself and jump in. I can't guarantee that I can answer everything as we're doing this, but you know, if I'm glossing over something very basic, please jump in and tell me. So in deciding how much we want these curves to be divided, I have over here a numeric slider. And the way to create a numeric slider is you just double click on the canvas. And just like in the command line over here, we could search for something, or in this case, I created a numeric slider. So let's say we want a minimum of 3 divisions in these curves and a maximum of ... 25. I could put that into this curve, and now it's on 3. See, and if I drag it up, it will, wait a minute. Oh, I don't have the curve in there. I put it in the wrong spot. That went into the, okay, so we're going to take that arc and we're going to put that into where the curve is. And now you can see I have 12. You can see I've changed the number of sliders on the, points on that curve with the slider. All right. So, but we really would like these 3 curves to have the same number. All right, so I'm going to take this guy, delete him, and we're going to take this and put that back in. So they all have the same number of divisions. Okay, that's fun. And now we're going to use that arc 3-point thing again. By the way, I use these panels to just like break things up. I could also use this pencil tool here and make some notes here if I needed to, or if I needed to circle something. So if we take each of these points that were created in the divide curve and feed those into an arc 3-point, we now are looking at the form of the side form of a ship, which is what I wanted to get at the whole time, right? So this is kind of interesting because now I can take these points, and by just manipulating these 9 points, I can really change the way this whole ship looks. There we go. I can do that kind of thing. I can, have the top go up really high. Whoop, hold on. Or of the back, I can have the bow stick out. I apologize if I'm getting real nautical on you guys, but you can see that I can very easily change the form of this ship, which is the part of my work that used to take me like days, literally days, sometimes weeks, depending on the piece. So we've got these arc 3-points, but what would be really cool is if I don't have to take all this into Rhino and still do my sweep 2s. So what can I do to create this and make it more solid? Here's where we're going to bring in perpendicular frames. All right, what these are actually are little tiny construction planes. So Grasshopper, because you're not manipulating the mouse to place things in Grasshopper, you usually have to put down a construction plane, which is why it's good that we learn about construction planes in Rhino, but we use them a whole lot more here in Grasshopper. So these perpendicular frames here, I can choose how many frames there are along those arcs that I just built. And what I'm going to do with those frames is I'm now going to place some geometry on top of it. I'm going to hide these frames. And we're going to place a rectangle on those frames. Okay. And you can see here that there are now rectangles all along those frames. All right, but I'm not showing the frames right now. Like I said, if I'm showing a lot, if I show all of the commands, this whole screen gets so cluttered. But what I can do is I can take a numeric slider and I can change the size of these. So I can make these planks, I can make them really tall, I can make them really wide, and these will, when I use another command, become something solid, right? We're going to use the loft command. I think we've all used that at some point or another in our Rhino career. So we pull down Loft, and I would find this. Oh, here's another really cool thing about Grasshopper. If you hold down the Control and the Alt key while you're clicking on something, you'll get these nifty little arrows that tell you where you can find it. So we can find the Loft command under the Surface tab and right in Freeform. We'll take a quick look at some of these that we have here. Grasshopper is organized a little different than Rhino, but a lot of this is going to look very familiar to you once you start digging in. Here in the Surface thing, we brought down that Loft command, and what we're putting into it are these rectangles, right? And so it is lofting those rectangles. First, we're going to hide the rectangles. Now we'll show where we're at here. Am I in ghosted? No. Okay. All right. So they're going to loft. And that's interesting because I would have thought the loft was going to show solid. There we go. I didn't hit it right. I probably had something else on. So we're going to hide the rectangles. Oh, wait. That's odd. Okay. The rectangles into the loft. And now you can see that we're now getting things that are more solid. But remember, this stuff isn't real in Rhino yet. If I'm over here in Rhino and I minimize my Grasshopper, I can't click on any of this in Rhino. It's not clickable. The only things I can move at this point are my Rhino objects, which are just those 9 points. So you see how I have it updating just based on those 9 points. I'm trying to keep it pretty simple. So at this point, I'm looking at these guys, and this is kind of cool. Let's go back up to Grasshopper. So Grasshopper, remember, is like a separate canvas. So we're working over here. I'm going to pull this over, and we're going to move the ship over so we can keep looking at it. So we've got those lofted. Now we're going to show the ones with the capped holes. So we're going to hide these two. And you can see that now we have those planks again, but now they're capped, if you can see that. So if we had, loft and rectangle visible, we'd have all this overlapping stuff going on here. Actually, let's hide those points too, the ones where we're dividing the curve. So they're not in our way. So we can just see those points and the arcs. So this is great, but obviously a ship has two sides. We're going to use the mirror command, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. We're inputting in, by the way, let me go to view, or is it display? Draw full names. I thought I had it on draw full names. Nope, guess not. Okay, there we go. It's when you have it on draw full names, then you can see what it's asking for. So here, the cap holes is exporting out, and I connected that with a wire to geometry. And the plane, how just like in Rhino, you're asked to, show the beginning and the end of, you have to click somewhere to create the mirror plane. Here we pull in a plane. We have a whole lot of different planes here in the vector panel. So here I am mirroring this on the YZ plane, which remember, if we move all around, we can see which plane is which. So if I bring this up and I make that visible, wait a minute, make that visible, you can see that now we have two sides to our ship. And again, remember, I mean, this is all in Grasshopper. And all I'm doing is manipulating these 9 points. And now I have like this really crazy ship form. And this makes me so excited, especially with all the work that it takes to keep this going, you know, in the traditional manner. So this is great, but, you know, my ship also has a keel, which connects the bow and the stern. So that was my next problem. All right, so these are our planks. And now this is the bow, keel, stern geometry. So I'm going to take this, which is, and actually at this point, the only things that we really want visible are, let's go to the pencil, are these two things here. Oh, no, wait, I think. Yeah, let's see. No, we need this one too, the cap holes. So these two commands are the main thing that we're showing. Everything else that we have here is hidden. I'm going to hit the check mark so I don't have to have the pencil anymore. So now I want to create a line that connects all of these points. Actually, at this point too, I am going to hide these so we can look a little bit more at what I have going on. Oh, I forgot about those arcs. That's these guys. Okay. And these other arcs too. So many things to keep track of. Okay, so we're back to our 9 points. Now we want to create, we're going to use the Interpolate Curve. And so we can, we have a number of different options for Interpolate Curve. You can see we're getting into more complicated commands here. So, but by using all of the points that we had, we can just input them all as vertices. Remember, we have these 9 points. We put them in as vertices. And if we show this, we have one long curve. Now, actually, we had to do one thing with this point here. And what we did with that was we projected that to the X or the YZ plane so that the line would go through there and remain in the center of the ship instead of taking a jog off to the left. I did that because I want the end of this arc to end outside of the center. So we took that point that we projected to the YZ plane, and we used all of those to create an interpolate. What's also a neat idea is the idea of using an extend curve. And here, I want to extend the curve beyond the points. And here I'm going to hide that original guy. Hold on. Oh, wait. To select it, and then we hide. Okay. So this extend curve, all right, is, oh, still did it. Now we have to select that, and now we make that visible. You can see the extend curve takes it a little bit above the endpoints. All right, and we're controlling that command with, first of all, we put the original curve in, right? Then we have type. So, and here's where if you hover, you can get more information about what the command is looking for here. So the type of extension, and you probably remember these from Rhino. If you go into curve and you choose to extend curve, you have line, arc, and smooth. So with that, and it can tell you what values it wants in order to calculate those. So you have a 0 for line, 1 for arc, and 2 for smooth. So all we have to do is put a numeric slider here, and that guy is this one. And I put the relay in here so I could just move around the wire. And we can change this to 1 or straight. so the line is 0. And here, let me center this so we can see. That's 0. That's what is okay, arc, and then smooth. So that's the type. Then we have the start of the line, which turns out is corresponding to the bow, and the end of the line corresponds to the stern. So I've actually renamed, you can rename a, and this is the bow stern extension type. All right, that's the type of extension it is. So I just changed the name of that. The bow height, we can change that up to there. We can make it a little shorter. And the stern height, same thing. If you're watching, we'll make it, if we have it type 2, you can see that it curls up a bit more. If it's type 1, it only curves a little. Obviously, it's very straight if it's if we put that slider on 0. All right. Then so this allows me to make the bow and stern extend beyond my planking, which is, of course, based on my 9 points. All right. So we're going to take this curve, and again, we're going to use that perpendicular frame command. And we'll show that now. And you can see I have 4. I can make more. I can make 5. I can make 6. Let's go back to 4. And so we're putting these perpendicular frames there because we want to put a polygon there. We're going to create a profile along the bow, stern, and keel of a polygon. This is, so again, the same sort of things that we get asked for. You know, when you start a command in Rhino and you're looking in the command line and it has all these options for you. Here in Grasshopper, you're plugging in those options very specifically. But what's really cool is you can always go back and change your answer, and everything updates based on that. So here we've got this polygon. We can choose how many segments. All right, so let's show these. The polygons. Oh, wait, I got to select it first. Select and show. Okay, so here we've got these pentagons that are, and we can make them wider, thinner. We can make them hexagons. We can make them octagons, ninegons. Anyway, but the smallest number that I went with is 3. So we could do it with a triangle, but then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to, I bet you all knew where this was going, Suite 1. We're using Suite 1. We're going to input the rail. We're going to use our curve that we made, right? That's our rail. We'll plug it right into here. Then our sections, our cross sections are here. That's our polygons. And the miter, you know, you may remember this. We've got 0, 1, and rotate. You may remember some of these options from Suite 1. So here we could keep it at 1. 1 was trim. Okay, let's see how that goes. This usually is only a problem when I'm really curving that stern. But let's see here. I want to make sure we're perpendicular to the curve, and we've got the Suite 1. So let's look at what that looks like. That's pretty cool. Now, of course, we will cap the holes. And we're going to take this guy and hide it. And this is another one of the pieces that we will now show. Okay, so let's go and we're going to choose all these guys. Obviously, we want all of these visible. And now Now comes the fun part. We go in and we start, you know, we can figure out how many planks do we want. Do I only want a few planks? Or, oh, look, they don't even quite overlap. Although that could make a kind of a cool piece, couldn't it? Or we want them this way. How do I want to manipulate the cross section of my planks? I can move those up and down. You know, we want to make sure that they also overlap pretty well with the stern and the keel. And that's where we can change the keel profile. Maybe we want to make that a pentagon or a hexagon. Look at that. Okay, so, all right. So how does this help me in Rhino? Remember, I can't touch it. Okay, if I go over to Rhino, I can't really do anything. So one of the things that I did when I made this, and this is part of the reason I was naming these numeric sliders, is there's this little option that says publish to remote panel. Remote panel, okay, that's cool. And I may have just added a extra thing here. But let's minimize Grasshopper. We can do that by just double clicking on the title bar, right? And over here, I have this thing called RCP Grasshopper. This is, and this shows up in our panels. I thought it showed up in the panels here. Maybe not. We may have to just type it in. But once we have, we can show different ways of displaying the Grasshopper. Not here though. Okay, so, but with this panel now, I have these connected to the sliders. So here's my strake count, which are what we call these planks. I can drop that down to, let's go down to really few, 10. That's pretty cool. All right, I like that. My keel profile, let's make that a little bit thinner. And here's where we can change the number of sides. I like the pentagon. Pentagon comes out pretty cool. All right, let's make it a little thicker. And that's the thickness here. And I don't know, let's see, that's the, these have to do with the X and Y of that rectangle on the planks on the side. Okay, so maybe this is cool. Let me extend my bow a little more. I like a little bit more extension on my bow, maybe not as much on the stern. And while I'm at this, and I'm playing with my Grasshopper, I can also move my Rhino points. I can squish these down a little. Look at that. Okay. So now let's say I like this and I really want to keep this. I'm going to go back over to Grasshopper. I'm going to take my final things. And this is where I do something called baking. I'm selecting these. They're bright green. You can see what I've selected here in the Rhino window. And you see this little egg? It says bake. And what it just did was it just created a version of those things in Rhino. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to take my keel. I am also going to bake that. And now if I take all of these, okay, and we're gonna hide them. So I just hid my Grasshopper stuff. I think I did. There it is. And we should have over here these are now poly surfaces. Woohoo! Look at that. So now I can just start Booleaning. Boolean union. Great. Okay, that's some. Let's put a few more. Oh, this is everything. I usually like to do these a little bit at a time, but look, it worked. I created meshes. Let's check the edges. Show edges, no naked edges. Hooray. Okay. So I'm gonna just stop there for a little bit and see if we have any questions, because that was a whole lot of information. And I'll continue sharing, but feel free to unmute yourself. I apologize for the quickness of this, and I have a little more to show you, but first I wanted to see how well you got what I showed you so far.
I have a question, Vibe.
Sure. Hi, Ree.
Hi. So when you initially started with the points, laying them out to give you to find the place that you want, how are you going about that? Are you doing that in Grasshopper, or is that something that you sort of figured out in Rhino?
I did that in Rhino. Those are the only objects in the that live in for this particular definition. Those are the only objects that actually are Rhino objects. And I knew where to place them because I've been building these ships for a number of years now. And I knew what I wanted to control. I wanted to be able to control the profile of the bow and the profile of the stern, and also that cross section where the planking reaches out in the middle.